Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Siliwangi, a ship that I really haven't played much before. And the reason we're taking a look at it today is you can try this ship out for yourself completely for free for the next couple of days. This is one of their sea trials where you don't even have to buy the ship at all and you get to play it for up to 5 games. You have around 3 days, 5 battles or 3 days to do this. And I'll show you at the end of this video if you can't find it on the website, but it's just in the article on the World of Warships website. It is a Pan-Asian destroyer at tier 8, loosely based on Ognevoi, but also having deep water torpedoes and a hydro. And if you're interested at all, or if you're not particularly interested, you can still just try it out. I would highly recommend you give it a go. I really love when Wargaming does this. This is really, really cool that you're able to actually try a ship before you buy it. A rental. It's something I wish they would do more of with premium ships, but especially with resource ships, I think that could be really cool. Maybe spend some resources to try out a resource ship, and if you like it, then you can spend the rest of those resources. If not, well, you wasted a few resources, but then you know you don't like that ship. I think that would be a really cool model for them to adopt. But back to this ship, we see it is incredibly powerful at cap contesting. With a 5.5 kilometer hydro, you are incredibly strong at dealing with enemy destroyers on caps. With this 5.9 kilometer detect, it's pretty good. Something you wouldn't expect a lot of the time. Certainly not on a non-German destroyer, I guess we could say. Deep water torpedoes means that while the Kagero spotted some of our torpedoes crossing there, and our torps couldn't hit them, unfortunately, just because they're deep waters, it doesn't mean they were all spotted for that Torpets. We were kind of wondering in stream while I was playing this thing, how did the Torpets eat those torps if they were spotted? And on further reflection or review of this, I don't think all those torpedoes were spotted given how stealthy they are. That's the massive advantage you gain from having deep waters. So the ship has 0.8 kilometer detect, less than a kilometer detect on those torpedoes. They go 62 knots base, which is decent, and have a 120 second reload. More importantly though, 10 kilometers, 17,933 alpha damage. They hurt. Tier 8 torps usually don't have this kind of alpha damage, certainly not with this detection. They will surprise you, they kind of just pop up beside your ship. There is very little reaction time to them. They have much higher alpha damage even than the Yang, which is the tech tree Pan-Asian destroyer, and a little more range as well. It's a pretty powerful torp boat. I'm not as big a fan of torp boats, but it is very, very powerful in that regard. And you still get some interesting gun power because it's based on an Ognevoi. You get these Russian guns. So you're going to notice the shell velocity here is really good. And I want to go in and help anywhere I can with these guns. This isn't a situation like Loyang, for example, where you have a little more DPM on Loyang, but the flight times are just atrocious. The Loyang is a good counterpart to this, also premium tier 8 Pan-Asian destroyer with a hydro too. It's a similar gimmick, but I do find Loyang to struggle more these days. Certainly Loyang was released a long time ago into a very different meta, but it takes an American gunboat and turns it into a hydro gunboat of sorts, but it loses a turret for that. So you only get 4 of those American DD turrets. So you lose some DPM over something like a Benson for that hydro play. And yes, Siliwangi does have a lot less DPM than even a Loyang, which doesn't have the best DPM these days, right? 129,000 HE DPM on Loyang. Siliwangi, though, gets 101,000, so quite a bit less. But it's this shell velocity. 6-second flight time to 10 kilometers is incredibly usable, whereas Loyang has 8.2, 8.3 second flight times to the same range. Makes it a lot harder to actually use these guns. It does, though, mean at close range, when you're trying to use this hydro gimmick, hydro and smoke gimmick, I should say, you will get out DPM'd by people if you're not sure you're going to remain undetected in your smoke. Fortunately, you have a lot of HP on a ship like this one, so starting on this one, you have 17,200 HP, which is almost that of a Kiev, so the gunboat Russian DD at that tier. Whereas Loyang gets 14,600 health, quite a bit less. And detection-wise, 5.9 is pretty good. 5.8, I think, on Loyang. Very, very similar, very, very usable. If you get yourself in a situation like this, where you get to fight tier 7s. I mean, we take out like almost half his HP on 2 Torp hits there. Absolutely crazy amount of damage for this tier. These deep waters are often seen at much higher tier where there's much more HP, better Torp protection. This poor Nagato. But since they're Russian guns, you also get some pretty strong AP with decent pen and alright alpha damage. I will say though, this is not a ship for me. I had a good time messing around with it, and I think you should try it out, because considering it's a free trial for the ship, if you're interested. But it's not my kind of ship. It's not a ship that I personally would buy or want to, wouldn't really enjoy playing all that much. It, as a gunboat, is not particularly powerful. It's a decent support gunboat, right? In situations where someone else is taking the focus fire. Early game in this one, it was our Bliss 44. Here, that Cossack was focused on a lot going on around him. So, targets of opportunity. But in 1v1 gunboats, or where you're the primary focus, it is very, very painful. The ship is not particularly quick, I didn't find, not terribly maneuverable. It's quite large as well, so it takes quite a bit of damage. And if you want to shoot all of your guns in this ship, you do have to give 32 degrees forward, 29 degrees backwards. But that doesn't feel particularly good when your DPM is so low. In fact, Akazuki has 192,000 HE DPM at the same tier. If you cut that in half, that's pretty close to the same with just its front guns. Obviously, this ship is more about its deep water torpedoes and using this smoke hydro gimmick, obviously. But I do have to mention it, as a destroyer, you will be fighting enemy destroyers for cap control, even just regular map control. You don't want to get outflanked as a team. Certainly, that is a great way to lose games. Something I talk about anytime in a match we lose 3/4 of the map, or the enemy team loses 3/4 of the map. It's very, very difficult to come back from games like that. And how does that happen? Typically because you lose one too many destroyer engagements on a particular flank, and the enemy DD, or your friendly DD, if you're winning the game, gets to push through uncontested. And it's really hard to deal with a destroyer if your destroyers are gone, especially if you don't have radar, of course. Or plane spotting. There's ways, but not every game will have them. Here, Gorizia pushing in, and I was either thinking this was going to be a ram, or he would slow down and turn in. That's a pretty typical dodge pattern. But no, they don't ram, and he continues at full speed, so I'm actually going to miss these torpedoes. Bit of an awkward situation we find ourselves in here. Our torpedoes are a little bit staggered, which means they're coming up soon, but not soon enough that they're actually going to help deal with this guy. Very fortunate he didn't have, I believe that one gets sap, so very fortunate no sap into our ship, and we do manage to take him out there. But very awkward. Not perfectly played by any means. Of course, though, we do have to mention the price on a ship like this. Tier 8 destroyer means it's not going to be that cheap. Nowhere near as expensive as Gonzaga or Monmouth, like we've been seeing recently, as bought outright prices. But 10,300 doubloons is still quite a bit for a ship that I find to be a little cumbersome to play, not super powerful. Although, again, I do prefer gunboats over torp boats generally. It's a very powerful torpedo boat, but 10,300 doubloons is not cheap, and that is just the regular price. That's a very standard price for a tier 8 premium ship. Of course, you could wait for something like Black Friday. That's a ways away, but those usually do come with a 30% discount on tier 8s. Not necessarily going to be a Siliwangi in that, though, if you are interested in this ship. But there are other destroyer options that will be on sale at that time. Typically, though, the standard price is not going to change all that much here. At least you do get the opportunity to try out the ship before you spend those 10,300 doubloons. Colorado is shooting HE, very scary stuff. We'll get our torpedo salvo off. Just one, though. I probably should have launched both. Wasn't playing my best here when it came to Torp salvos. Fire chance not too bad on this one, and we drift, just barely avoiding most of that salvo. On for a Kraken, perhaps, and he slows down and turns in. That's a pretty standard dodge that I missed earlier when the Gorizia didn't do it, and now Colorado does do it, and then I miss. Classic. If you're a little better at those Torp boats than I am, then you probably could find this ship to be very strong, considering the torpedo power on display here. But I just miss a lot of those easy give me Torp salvos. At least that's how I find it. I get in my own head too much. Oh, is he gonna dodge? Is he not? I don't know. Here, Sun Yang finally caught up with him. 500 HP. Kraken? No, we do miss it, and I think our Hobart there is going to finish him off. Indeed. So we miss out on the Kraken. That's okay, though. We yoinked a few kills in this one, I think, but still a decent game, decent showcase of this ship. And here we'll get to see also that credit income, that premium credit income, over 700,000 credits from that game, where we had a decent game, a lot of kills, okay base XP, but nothing too extraordinary, I would say. And that did include premium time, of course, and then there was, I believe I had a green booster on. So not a blue or red booster, but a green booster, which certainly does help out the credit income. Tier 8s are still really good at earning credits in this game. You don't need a Tier 9. While they are a little bit better, Tier 8s still do earn a very nice chunk of credits for you. This game here, a nice little clip to showcase the Smoke Hydro gimmick, or rather, what can happen when someone gets a little too close? Your smoke fire detect is going to make it a little awkward at these very, very close ranges. Yes, if he gets far enough away, he won't be able to see us, we'll see him, and our damage will be very strong. It's still not bad, like at these ranges, we're guaranteeing a lot of damage in, but that's an FR-25, which is, I believe, a Tier 7 destroyer, and we're not exactly out trading him. Here though, finally, we're undetected, so his salvos are a little less accurate, and that's the gimmick, that's the power. So maybe think of it as a primary torpedo boat that can sometimes hydro smoke gimmick gunboats that contest its space, contest its cap control. That could be an interesting way of looking at it. It's like if you gave a Torp boat the ability to go dark and detect someone charging at it at the same time. Sometimes I'll do that in my gunboat DDs when there's like a Shimakaze alone on a flank, right? You'd have to be a little more careful against a ship like Siliwangi, for example. Here with Arms Race and a little bit higher tier in this one. Not the best match, certainly, but Deep Waters into a Palmer, right? Certainly, ships with Hydro are a bit of a challenge for Deep Waters because they completely get rid of your advantage, that being the detection on the torpedoes. If they spot them at a flat distance from their ship, it's a little harder to land them. Although we do get 2 in on this Palmer here, so popped his damage control and still did some very, very nice damage as well. It's a solid Torp boat as tier, but I just think it's a little bit too expensive. And the last game I have to show you here is one about game knowledge and a caution. Probably should know what enemy ships you're fighting against before you start charging in all confident with your Smoke Hydro gimmick. That is a test ship, so I wasn't exactly aware of what it was, and it also has a Hydro. Oh no! And likely more DPM, considering we have some of the worst DPM at our tier. Although it seems like AP. There is also a Libertad on our flank, so, you know, here come these secondaries. Very scary. We don't lose all our HP, fortunately, but very scary start to this match. When you're playing any destroyer, you should be aware of the enemy ships you're fighting. Fortunately, the game does allow you to click on enemy ships so you can understand what they have, but I should have done that beforehand. Typically, I don't need to because I'm so involved with this game that I know most of the specifics of the enemy ships I'll be fighting, but this one surprised me. Did not expect the Hydro on it yet, too, and a heal. Interesting. Well, test ship. That'll be fun when I get the chance to play it, I suppose. I always love a good gunboat with a heal. That is a good time. Hydro and a heal. That'll be fun. But this is more about Siliwangi. Be careful. Just a warning. Just be careful. It is a strong gimmick, but you got to be aware of what you're fighting, whether that be enemy radars or other Hydros, or just ships that'll burst you down before you can even slow down in your smoke, because it does take you a little bit to set that Smoke Hydro gimmick up. The enemy ship has to be pushing into you as well. Otherwise, well, the Hydro only reaches 5.5. And if they don't get in that range, you go dark in your smoke and then you stop spotting them. Can be a bit of a problem. Speaking of problems in this game, notice we only have 1 Torp launcher. As always, permanently destroyed modules, Wargaming. Please fix. Please. Surely it wouldn't be that bad to remove permanently destroyed modules. Let us heal them back. Let us use a repair party or a damage control to bring them back. Sure, they can be destroyed for a period of time, but at least let us bring them back. It feels so bad anytime you're playing some of these ships that have very few main armament modules, whether that be torpedoes or main guns. Things like Jean Bart come to mind, where you have 2 turrets up front. If one gets knocked out, that is so, like, permanently knocked out. That's painful. For torp boats, especially, knocking out those torpedo tubes, that is painful, because you're building into them. Suddenly, your entire commander spec, your module spec, is being crushed by what I find to be a not very fun game mechanic, personally. I also think that permanently destroyed AA and secondary mounts are unfortunate, too. It means that it's a lot harder for the balance team to get things right, like AA damage, for example. If, depending on who's in the match, like a Conqueror shoots at you, well, suddenly all your AA is gone. That's not particularly enjoyable either. But that's more feedback for when we get to check out this rework. I saw it was announced on the website, pretty close to where you can get the Siliwangi rental, that we're going to get to try it out. There's going to be a test server, so if you're interested in the carrier rework, definitely give that a download. I certainly will be trying it, and you can definitely expect a video on my thoughts for it. Fortunately, with only 1 Torp salvo, we still have enough to dev strike the Lexington here. So decent damage into this one, and always feels good to get a dev strike on a carrier of all things. In the late game, of course. Game was over, but still, we will gladly take it. Another decent credit game, but after you have a certain number of premiums, especially if you have premiums you already like to play, the value of getting another premium for credit income certainly does go down, because you're probably not going to play it all that often, especially if there's a different one you like better. And just to show you where you can find the rental or the trial of this ship, it's only for a couple of days. It's March 26th or 27th is the final date, depending on your time zone, I guess. And you go here to news section, you can click all news, and here it is, Sea Trials. I'm a little bit late on this. Came out right on the weekend or so I'd already made some videos. So fortunately, we got a little bit of time. See my local time here. It says March 27th, 4 a.m. So may or may not be available to you, but you just click participate and it should show up in your port, giving you 5 battles or 3 days. That's all you got to do. Very, very simple, and lets you try out a premium ship before you have to buy it. That is a unique thing that Wargaming has been doing a little bit of. Maybe it's a test to see if it sells more premiums or not. And I hope it does. I hope whatever it is that Wargaming is testing with these rentals, these sea trials, that it's working, because I love this. I really do. I think this is amazing. Amazing for players. There is just, for a player, there's no downside to this at all. There's only benefits to being able to try these things out before you buy them, right? Like, you wouldn't, well, some people do, I guess, but you wouldn't go to like a car dealership and buy a car without driving it a little bit first, right? Maybe an extreme example, but there's a bit of a comparison there. I do think that testing things out before you actually have to buy them is really, really good. Here's the build that I was running. Did some torpedo tube stuff, did a bit of aiming systems, because the dispersion, as you saw, was not great, but I ultimately landed on a bit of a hybrid, mostly torpedo-focused build, because the torps are where the real power lies. And your gimmick, being the smoke hydro, is good, but going full gun build into it, I mean, you're not going to get value out of Fearless Brawler if you're executing the smoke hydro gimmick properly. Not that I did a particularly good job of that. You don't want to be spotted, ideally, while you're doing it. And I don't think the extra range would really help you all that much. 12.5 is still very excellent. Survivability expert for even more HP, 21,000 HP for a tier 8 DD is very, very good. So a lot of survivability on this one, even if it's not the fastest or most maneuverable. It's decent, turning radius a little wide, but 5.9 detect is really, really solid. It's a solid, mostly torp boat with a small gimmick that can sometimes surprise those superior gunboat DDs that if they're not expecting it, you can definitely get them taken out. Otherwise, it's still just a very good cap contester on this thing. Very, very strong in that scenario. Whether it be island caps, where you can push up to the island and hydro the entire thing, or even just a standard cap that's more open, like in that first clip I showed you, people won't be expecting it. This is a rare ship in that not many people have it. Not in that it's like hard to get or anything like that. I just don't think many people have it. So much like my surprise when charging into that Bliss 44 test ship, not realizing it had a hydro, I think a lot of people would charge into this one's hydro, not realizing that it exists either. So an interesting portion of this ship, I suppose. But that is going to do it for today. Wargaming, if you're listening, please, more rentals, more trials. Please extend it to resource-based ships. Real quick, Wargaming, if you're watching this, thank you for watching my video. But what if we could go here? Just hypothetically, what if we could go to ships? What if I could click coal ships? And let's say Key. I saw this YouTube guy talk about Key and how maybe that's a good battleship to pick up. Really interesting. It's much less than the tier 9 and 10 coal ships. Maybe I even have a coupon. What if I could spend 20% of the cost here, and that would give me a 5-game rental of it? And then that 20% would be reduced off the cost. And if I liked it, then I would just pay the full price, 135,000 coal. But it would have been in 2 installments, one small one to let me rent it for a portion, and then one larger one to finish and get the ship fully. Something like that, I think, would be really, really cool for coal, for steel, research bureau, doubloons even. Like, I think this is really interesting. I think it's a really interesting way to be player friendly, player positive. I think that would be a good thing for players, but also I think it would just help sell more ships. I think that would get people more excited for some of these premiums that you're releasing that, well, it's a lot of resources. It takes them a while to grind up. I mean, coal, maybe you get a little bit quicker just by playing every day, opening your resources containers, that kind of thing. But steel research points for sure take a long time to get, and to sink that many resources, that much time grinding into a ship, and you're not sure if it's going to fit your playstyle, that kind of feels bad. Where if they offered some trials, well, that would be awesome, I think. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's going to do it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.